Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. This is the 7th episode of the story in which a terrifying situation pushes Naruto to unleash something the ninja world has never seen before. Naruto now holds a position of enormous power. What is a troublemaker to do when he has the ability to appear wherever he wants? Please hit the subscribe and like buttons. Let's get this party started. Naruto waited as Tsuon pinched the bridge of her nose. She read the report again and he knew that she was a bit upset about something. Team Anko arrived 2 days ago after completing their mission and were in the room with them as well. It seemed that Kakashi and Guy ran into trouble, but Gaara was saved in time. He was however now missing his tailed beast. They would be arriving later that day to turn in their mission brief. "Well, it seems that you guys have had a fulfilling mission," she said as she sipped her sake. Anko stood behind Tsunade and she smiled down at Naruto, tears almost stinging her eyes. "Naruto, I thank you for staying safe, but next time when you fight a cage, please use your backup." "Hey, they were taking their time with the easy guys," Naruto said with smirk. Hinata elbowed him in his side. "We were fighting an entire army," she said with a huff, "to get to you. And Shikamaru was stuck in the barracks, alone, fighting off the entire Mist Anbu. I think I handled myself quite well," Shikamaru whispered to Shino, who chuckled. Shikamaru flinched as he felt Tuya stare bullets into his head. "The entire Mist Anbu?" Tuya asked, shaking in rage. "Oh, I'll be safe. I knew you were going to do something stupid like that. I will say this over and over again," Shino said with a smirk. "With Naruto on the team, we can't always make guarantees that we can do anything safe and or sane." "I agree," Shikamaru said with a smirk. "Enough," Tsunade yelled as she slammed her hands on the desk. "You guys did well regardless. Kakashi's team will be arriving tomorrow and he has news. So you guys will need to rest up. You are dismissed." "Hi." They all chorused. "Lee-kun," Sakura yelled as he kicked another zombie-like creature across the room. "We need to get these kids out of here." "Yes, I agree," Lee said as he looked over at the group of kids that were staring up at him. It was a group of 6 kids ranging from different ages and sex. They all looked up at him with almost stars in their eyes. "You better make it quick," Neji said as he disposed of 3 zombies that were running into the small room. Tenten was tossing weapons into the horde of zombies that were gathering at the entrance of the room. Lee looked out the window and sighed. They came to the town to find out it was abandoned. They came to the hospital to see what was happening when they found a message from Thane. He used the people of this town in one of his sick experiments. The entire village was overtaken by a sickness except the 6 kids that were in the room with them. They were the only test subjects that didn't submit to the disease, and because of it they were stored in this room. Sakura ran several tests on them, and besides the extra immunities to the disease they were perfectly fine. The rest of the village was a lost cause, and they had to dispose of it as quickly as possible. They were able to get the entire horde of zombies into the building, and were going to blow it when they discovered the children. That changed the plans a bit. Sakura turned to her man, who kicked the wall, creating a giant hole that led to the outside. The only downside was they were on the top level and it was a 30-story fall. Lee smiled over at Sakura, who was holding the youngest child, and gave him a nod. "We need to blow the building, Tenten," Neji said as he and Kiba held the door closed as the zombies continued to pound on the door. "Do you still have enough seals?" "I have enough to bring down this building twice over," Tenten answered as she flicked her wrist and a small kunai flew through the door and exploded on the other side. "That should buy us some time. Lee, get down to the bottom and secure it and make sure we keep them all in the building," Neji said as he turned to Kiba. "You gather as many children as you can with Sakura." "Right," Kiba said as he looked over at the kids as he and Akamaru approached them. "Who's ready to ride on the dog?" "Tenten," Neji said softly as he turned to her. "Get them ready, we will blow this as soon as we are out of range." "Got it," Tenten said with a bit of a mischief in her eyes. Lee was already on the ground and disposed of the small horde of zombies that were gathering around at the hospital entrance. It seemed that they continued to pile out of the hospital, but Lee never slowed down. Kiba landed in the clearing and looked back as he adjusted the 2 kids in his arms. He watched as Lee continued to dispose of the zombies, keeping them inside the hospital building. Akomaru landed and gave a slight bark as the 3 kids on his back squealed in joy. Kiba and his dog ran to the safe zone with the kids. Sakura landed with the youngest in her arms and tossed a quick glance over her shoulder towards her man, who was keeping the zombies at bay and at the entrance of the hospital. Tenten and Neji landed next and began to run. "Move it, Lee," Neji yelled back. "I need to blow it now, Neji," Tenten said as the zombies started to try and get out of the hospital. Neji gave her a nod as he looked back at Lee. The entire building exploded and started to collapse upon itself. Lee looked up at the sound of the explosions and with a quick motion his weights flew off his feet and he was gone in a flash. Lee, Sakura yelled as she looked at the dust that settled from the now destroyed building. Yes? Lee asked from behind her. He was covered in dust and panting slightly but was unscathed. Sakura turned and tossed her arms around him and buried her head in his chest. Lee chuckled and wrapped his arms around her and smiled. You idiot, she whispered as he kissed the top of her forehead. Okay, Neji said as he dusted himself off and scanned the area with his eyes. It seems that they are all gone. We shall return home now. Great, I could use a bath, Lee said as he dusted his shoulders off. Sakura just smirked as her eyes glazed over. Naruto sighed as he leaned back on the couch. Izuma was bouncing happily on Hinata's leg telling her about his day as Ryu and Haru played on the floor. Ayame and Anko were talking in the kitchen as Iruka was cooking in the kitchen. They all were waiting for Kakashi's team to arrive so they decided to have dinner at Iruka's. Naruto quickly invited Hinata over who gladly accepted and was currently enjoying her time with Izuma. Naruto was tired from having to watch the little terrors after he got back, but didn't mind in the end. He was able to teach them some of his best hiding places and gave them some cool new pranks. So Hinata-kun, said Ayame said as she and Anko walked up to her on either side. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked over to the bar that was around kitchen. He leaned forward as Iruka gave him a grin. Yes? Hinata asked as she continued to bounce the young boy on her knee. When are you going to be having a little one? Anko asked as she looked over at Ayame who was grinning as well. What? Hinata stuttered as she stopped bouncing Izuma and blushed. Leave her alone, Naruto yelled from the kitchen. Oh, we were just wondering when she was ready to start her own little family, Ayame said with a smile as she looked over at Hinata who was blushing like she was back in the academy. At least the practice is fun, right? Damn it, Ayame-kun, Naruto yelled as he laid his head on the counter as Hinata covered her face with her hands. I agree with you, Ayame-kun, Anko said. She looked back at Iruka. Right, Iruka-kun? The practice is the best? Whatever you say, Anko-kun, Iruka said, ignoring the conversation happening. Years of practice taking over as he skillfully navigated the kitchen. Hey, Anko yelled as Iruka turned to her and gave her a slight grin. You listening to me? Of course, sweetheart, just don't want to burn dinner, Iruka said as he tilted his head to the side. Anko steadied him for a moment before turning her attention to the blushing girl in front of her. Iruka turned to Naruto who was staring at him with a raised eyebrow. That's the secret, my young friend. Just agree with them and when confronted, make sure you have a fallback. I should write this down somewhere, Naruto said as he searched his pockets for his notepad and pen. Then you'll have him wrapped around your finger, Anko exclaimed as she looked down at Hinata who was passed out with grin on her face. Oh, we lost her. I think she passed out when you were describing, in vivid detail, the different ways to convince your man to get what you want, Ayame said with a soft chuckle. Bless her heart, she was information overload. You guys are terrible, Naruto yelled from the kitchen as he slammed his head on the table. Iruka just laughed in the kitchen. What are you practicing with, Daddy, Mama? Izuma asked as he looked up at Anko who cursed under breath. So you're saying that Thane used an entire village as an experiment? Tsunade asked looking down at Sakura who nodded and handed her some blood samples. These were taken from the 6 children that were able to withstand the disease and build an immunity, Sakura said as she sat down across from her mentor. She picked up a cup and filled it with some of her sensei's sake and took a swig. Tsuan smirked at her as she tossed back a shot of sake as well. I ran several tests before bringing them to the village so everything is fine. Did we find out how he poisoned the town? Tsuan asked. Sakura nodded and held up water samples. The water that lead into town showed trace amounts of the disease, Sakura started. I recommend testing all of our water reserves in the villages and allied villages. I will have a Nanbu team start at once, Tsunade answered as she leaned back in her chair. I believe that you have had a long day, Sakura. Why don't you go on home? I just wanted to finish the report before heading to Ino's, Sakura said as she rubbed her neck. I will be leaving then. How's your little boy toy? Looks like you guys have been having fun. Tsunade asked with a smirk as she watched her second apprentice blush a bit but smirk at the same time. Sakura's smirk even more as she covered the slight love bite on her lower neck with her hand. Goodbye, Hokage-sama, Sakura coughed out and walked out. You're a lazy, no good, poor excuse for. Tuya started to yell but Shikamaru gave her a light kiss shutting her up for the moment. She sighed as she wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him closer. Before she could deepen the kiss, Shikamaru pulled out of her arm lock and flashed a lazy grin that made her stomach flutter. You were saying? Shikamaru asked as he turned and started to walk away from the blushing girl. You're not off the hook yet, Tuya yelled as she hurried to catch up with him. Just wait till I tell Tamari about that stunt you pulled and missed. You wouldn't? Shikamaru groaned as he turned to her pinching his nose. She's had enough on her plate with Gaara missing and almost. Yeah, so why wouldn't she want to know that her husband was almost killed and missed as he took on a squad of Anbu? Tuya answered back crossly. You put yourself in danger when you promised you'd be safe. We are ninja. Shikamaru answered as grabbed her hands in his. He traced his thumbs over her knuckles in slow circles. Being in danger is part of the job. Just know that I will do all I can to always come back. You promise? Tuya asked in rare moment of shyness. Shikamaru just nodded and gave her a slight kiss on her forehead. Good, now we can go to that party. Do we have to? Shikamaru asked as they made their way to Ino and Choji's. It was custom after every successful Black Leaves mission they would blow off steam and compare stories at Ino's and Choji's spacious house. Of course we have to, Tuya said as she gripped his hand and they walked down the empty street towards the house. Great, Shikamaru said as he allowed her to lead the way. It wasn't a party per se, more like a gathering of friends who just wanted to relax and compare. Battle House was huge and had a large backyard with plenty of room. A large stone table stood adjacent to the grill and was perfect for gatherings like this. Choji stood behind a large pit of coals cooking various meats while holding what looked like a bottle of sake in one hand and tongs in the other. A giant apron with ninja cook printed on the front was wrapped around his civilian clothes. Kiba and Shino stood by him watching him cook, giving him a couple of compliments every now and then, both red-faced from their own bottle of sake sitting in their hands. Ino was talking to Sakura, Kin and Haku who were setting the table. Shikamaru looked over at Tuya who gave him a quick kiss and walked over to the table to talk to the girls. Shikamaru walked over to the guy who were gathering around the girl. Lee appeared from inside the house with another tray of meats and veggies and walked over to the guys. So where are Naruto and Hinata? Shikamaru asked. They are visiting Iruka and them for now, Choji answered as he flipped some the more cooked meat. Hinata said they will swing by once they are done eating over there. They are missing out on the famous Choji's cooking? Kiba exclaimed as he tried to reach for a more cooked piece of meat. Choji was quick with his tongs and smacked his hand away, causing Kiba to whimper and shake his hurting hand. Don't you be touching my meat, Choji yelled, causing the guys to laugh and Kiba to raise an eyebrow. You tell him, Choji-kun, Ino yelled over to the boys. Only I can touch your meat. What? Kiba yelled as he was shaking his hands out in front of him. Kiba, is there something that you need to tell me? Kin asked, putting her hands on her hips, giving him a glare. I didn't touch his. Kiba started. Not what I saw, Shino said as he adjusted his glasses. Clearly your claw-like hands were touching his. I swear that I didn't touch Choji's meat. Kiba interrupted with a yell. Then he turned away from the grill and wandered into the house, cursing under his breath. It's almost too easy, Shikamaru said as he watched the scene. But fun nonetheless. I better go get him, Kin said with a smirk as she followed him into the house. You better not be doing anything in that house, Ino yelled as she walked over to the grill with a large plate. Anything ready, hun? Just a couple of minutes, Choji answered. So how was your mission? Oh, it was kind of easy, Ino answered, causing the others of Team Anko to groan. What? It was not easy, Haku said as she walked up behind Shino and wrapped her arms around his waist. We had to fight off some experimental sea monster that Orochimaru had. It went down, but took a bit of a fight. Granted, it isn't freeing an entire hidden village from tyranny, Tuya said as she looked over at Shikamaru. How did you guys pull that one off? Well, we had lots of help, Shikamaru answered with a smirk. Really? Choji said, a little red-faced. It was the four of us freeing Mei, then we had to fight though an army to reach you in the barracks. Shino-kun? Haku whispered over his shoulder and he smiled at her. Shino knew she was worried about Zabuza. I kept him safe, Shino said with a smirk. But we didn't have fun time. It was pretty tough. You could have had to fight zombies, Lee said with a smirk. Tenten and Neji groaned and Sakura just nodded in agreement. We found one of Thane's experimental villages. Completely laid to waste, and they were all infected by some disease that turned them into zombies. That was terrible, Sakura said from the table as she sipped on her sake with Tenten, who was pouring herself another cup. Neji was playing Akamaru, who was pulling him around by the stick they were using. It seems that we have plenty of steam to blow off then, Choji said with a smirk. Let's start eating. Finally. They all exclaimed. Where are we going, Hina-him? Naruto asked as they walked the darkened streets towards Ino's house. Hinata smiled up at Naruto as let out a light yawn. She enjoyed the feeling of being in his arms as they walked the streets. Where all the Black Leaves meet after missions, Hinata said as they came to the large house and walked in without knocking. Whose house is this? Naruto asked as he looked around. Just then the door to the right sprang open and Kiba walked out with a smile and pulling his shirt over his head. His hair was even more wild than normal and he had love bites on his chest. Hey Kiba. You made Kiba said, now happy. Kin came out of the room a moment later, her hair also messy but apart from that she was fine. She gave a slight nod to Naruto and Hinata, who smiled back. I guess, Naruto said with a smirk. Your house? No, Ino and Choji's, Kiba answered as they walked outside. Since when did they live together? Naruto asked Hinata. About a year now, Hinata said with a smirk. After they both made Anbu. I can't believe I'm outranked by all of you guys, Naruto huffed as Hinata grabbed his hand. I think of a couple of good ways to use it, Hinata said with a smirk, causing Naruto to blush slightly. Oh, Naruto said as he flashed a foxy smile. He wasn't going to be outdone. It isn't anything you learned from Anko or I am tonight, is it? Hinata coughed a bit as she tried to hide her blush. The dinner passed by quickly as they ate and talked about their recent missions. Towards the end of the night the girls started to clean as the boys sat around talking. Shikamaru puffed on his lit cigarette and looked over at Naruto, who was shuffling his seal cards. What do we need to know? Shikamaru asked as he stared down Naruto. Shino moved closer and adjusted his glasses out of habit. Well, Naruto sighed as he stopped his shuffling. It seems that the group called the Akatsuki is planning on capturing all the tailed beast. They are a group of S-class missing nins that are at the caliber of Orochimaru and higher. Great, Kiba said. That is why Gaara was attacked? Correct, Naruto said as he huffed and rubbed his belly. It seems that they are starting. Over the last 3 years we tried to contact as many Jinchuriki as possible, but most didn't heed the warning. There are 2 in Iwa who ignored us, then the 2 in Kuma didn't believe us. But they might come around. So what happens when they extract the tailed beast? Shino asked as he looked over at his friend. Gaara was lucky that he survived, Naruto said with a sad look. But others will not be. They die once the beast is ripped from the body. So these guys will be targeting you, Naruto? Lee asked as his eyes seemed to burn. Naruto nodded and looked up at the window to see the girls on the inside. You haven't told her yet, Shino said a bit cold. You better, because she deserves to know. I will tell her tonight, Naruto said as he looked at his friends. I hope you guys are ready for the war. Because I don't plan on waiting for them to come to me. It's been getting a little stale here, Choji said with a smirk, causing the others to smile and crack their knuckles. We will follow you anywhere. You're going to be a problem when you finally become Hokage, Shikamaru said with a sigh and closed his eyes. He opened them and his entire demeanor changed. He wasn't leaning back lazily, but was sitting forward, his eyes showing that he was thinking every possibility. We need a plan. You and I will meet tomorrow and you will tell me everything you know about these guys. Then we will start taking them out using the right people for the right job. That's why you will be my advisor, Naruto exclaimed as Shikamaru just groaned. Shino chuckled and Naruto turned his gaze to him and grinned. I will most likely need to. Damn it all, Shino muttered into his sake, causing the others to laugh. Serves you right, Hinata said with a slight giggle as Naruto groaned from the bed. He just got done telling her that he was being hunted by a group of missing S-class ninjas. Naruto didn't help his cause when he told her that he and the guys would be taking care of them. She felt that he was keeping her out of danger. I didn't mean it like that, Hinata, Naruto grumbled as he slowly leaned back up. I just don't know what I would do if they got to you. You think it's any better for me? Hinata asked, crossing her arms over her chest. Selfish asshole. I am not selfish. Naruto shot back, then whispered. But maybe an asshole. Really? Hinata said as she junkened him again in his other arm, causing him to shriek, fall back to the bed. You are only worrying about how you will feel. What about me, Naruto? What about my feelings when you're out on strange missions, fighting off S-class nins? If I say you can help, will you stop hurting me? Naruto whimpered out. Hinata huffed and gave him another shot to his stomach before sliding up next to him in bed. You will have to do more than that, Hinata said with a kiss to his shoulder. Naruto grinned, turned to panic when he noticed he couldn't move. Hinata waited for a second, then got out of bed with a shoulder shrug. I guess you don't want to make it up to me. I will be going, see you tomorrow, Naruto-kun. Wait, Naruto yelled, struggling to regain control of his numb body. Hinata got to the door and threw one last look over her shoulder. A sexy come here look, that drove Naruto crazy. I do. No, don't leave. Always leave them wanting more, Hinata murmured to herself as she walked back home. So how did it go with you? Naruto asked Shikamaru, who raised his head from the bar to show a black eye. About the same story here. Where is Neji? 10-10, Shikamaru said slowly. Sharp, pointy, objects and perfect aim. Right, Naruto said with a smirk. He must still be running for his life right now. Yeah, what about you guys? Naruto looked at the other men sitting around the bar. Lee had his arm in a sling, Kiba had a chipped fang, Choji was sporting some nasty cuts across his chest, and Shino was just smiling. What the hell, Shino? Did you even tell Haku that we wanted them to stay out of danger on this one? Illogical to even try, Shino said as he adjusted his glasses. See, we may be some of the strongest ninjas Konoha's had in recent history, but we made the mistake of being with even stronger women. Meaning? Naruto asked, still slow on the upkeep. That we don't wear the pants, Choji said as he downed another shot of sake. We may be the head, but our troublesome women are the neck. Huh? Kiba asked, looking over towards them. Don't use my catchphrase, Shikamaru shot at Choji, who smirked. But yeah, they are the neck. Meaning they control which way the head turns. Kiba, it's just a fancy way of saying we are undoubtedly whipped and we will do whatever the women in our lives want. Just we try to act manly and set rules. Which they somehow already knew we would set, Shino followed up as he dropped his glass in realization. Which means they planned for us to apply said rules in the first place, Naruto said, standing up knowing where this was going. Lee banged his head on the bar, catching on as well. Shit, Kiba said, looking over at them. We were never in control of anything. They only wanted us to think we had control of some things, Choji said as he put his hand to his forehead, as Shikamaru just groaned. They only allowed us that to humor us. Sake. The 5 men yelled at once. Ah, Shikaku said as he looked at his 2 friends. It seems our sons finally figured the puzzle out. Should we go to them? Hinata asked as they watched their men downing shot after shot of sake. No, said the other girls in unison. Good girls, said Yoshino Nara, standing with Ino's mom and Choji's mom. You have all made it to the next level of your ownership of these useless creatures. I didn't think it would be this much work, Kin said with a smirk. They are slower than most animals I've trained. Hey, they have their uses, Haku said with a blushing smirk. But it is true. It's like pulling teeth to get them in line. You guys have it easy, Sakura said as she crossed her arms. Hinata and I both have the unlimited energy once. At least you can tire yours out. I never heard you ever complain about that, Sakura. It's usually you can't get enough of his unlimited energy, Ino said with a knowing smirk, causing Sakura to blush and swing at her friend. Just because my Nara looks lazy doesn't mean he is, Tuyu said with a smirk, licking her lips. Trust me, under the right motivation he is quite lively. Is there something I should know? Yoshino asked with a raised eyebrow. No, yelled all the girls at once. We should head back, Hinata said, and the girls disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Why did you do that? Ino's mom said with a smirk. Choji's mom was laughing on the floor. Well, he must get that from his father, Yoshino said with a grin as her husband stumbled out of the bar. So you are requesting a mission? Tsunade asked as she looked at Naruto. Anko and Shizune stood at her sides holding files in their hands. You are still a chunin. I can't give you command over higher-ranking ninja. That's fine, Naruto said as he crossed his arms and nodded his head. Shino and Shikamaru will be in charge. I'm just asking for one mission. Okay, and what are you going to be doing? Tsunade asked as she took a sip of sake. We will be going after someone who will have information on members of the Akatsuki, Naruto said with a smirk. And maybe in the process we can bring back a traitor to Konoha. You're going after Orochimaru, Anko yelled from Tsunade's side. Tsunade smirked at Naruto as he waited patiently. I can't give you all the members of the Black Leaves, Tsunade said. You can take a 4-man team and you will be back in 2 weeks' time. Shit, Shikamaru said as he puffed on his cigarette. We need to figure out who's coming with us. Well, Shino said, adjusting his glasses. You will be fighting Sasuke. That means fire jutsus, so I think I could sit this one out. My bugs and fire don't mix too well. Choji will come, Naruto said as they walked down the street. Agreed, Shikamaru said as he turned towards Naruto with a smirk. Neji or Hinata? You going to put this blame on me, huh? Naruto asked as he crossed his arms. Neji. Meet you at the gates in an hour? Yes, I will assemble the other 2, Shikamaru said. Shino, you should contact Zabuza and see if we can't get anything on that swordsman they have. Haku and I will be visiting him soon, Shino said as he looked around. I will talk to the Hokage and see if we can bump up our scheduled meeting. That would be great, Shikamaru said as he fell back into his shadow. He's trying to be cool like me, huh? Naruto said with a smirk as he vamped away. Shino just shook his head and walked calmly back to his house. So does Hinata know that you chose me over her? Neji asked as he nursed one of his many stab wounds. You told him? Naruto asked as he slapped his hand to his face. What kind of advisor are you? Does this mean I'm out of the job? Shikamaru asked hopefully. No, Naruto yelled, pointing at him. This means that you will be doing extra work. I don't know yet what it will be, but you've been warned. Damn, Shikamaru mumbled. Okay, first we will be infiltrating a base that Jiraiya mapped out. He said that it is one of the most active bases and should be a good starting point. We only have 2 weeks to corner the snake, let's make them count. Hi, they said at once and disappeared into the woods. So he left as well? Ino said as she blew her nose into a tissue. Hinata looked up from her spot. She was sitting on the wall looking out over the trees in the direction that Naruto left. She deactivated her bloodline as he was now out of range completely. She looked over and noticed the sniveling Ino and patted the empty seat next to her. Yeah, she said with a huff. Did they tell you where they were going? Choji said it was only to get information, Ino said as she leaned her head on Hinata's shoulder. I don't get why I'm so upset though. I don't think they told us everything, Hinata said as she recalled Naruto telling her the same thing. I'm going to ask Tsunade-sama what the mission details were tomorrow. You want to join? I would like that, Ino said with a nod. Stupid Choji, if he comes back injured we are done. You don't mean that, Hinata said with a smile. Ino nodded. I know, but if does, Ino seethed. I swear I will kill him myself. Making me worry, that causes wrinkles. Does he know what that would do to me? Don't worry, Hinata said as she looked over at her friend, flashing her an evil grin. I have a plan to get them back once they return. I like the way you think Hinata-kun, Ino said with a matching grin. I feel a disturbance in the force, Choji said to the guys as he shuddered. Naruto looked over before he felt the same wave of evilness. Guys, Naruto struggled out. We may want to finish this quickly. I don't think it would be prudent to waste too much time. Why? Neji asked looking over at him. I don't want to give Hinata and Ino time to plan anything too harsh, Naruto said scratching the back of his head. Knowing them they will get Tenten and Tsuyu to join in the plan as well. Double time. Shikamaru barked and took off. Naruto jumped into the air dodging a kunai and disappeared. The Atonin that threw the kunai looked around only for his face to meet the devastating force of Naruto's punch. The nin was blown into a wall and fell to the floor unconscious. They were in a long corridor filled with random doors that seemed to be supplying an endless stream of Atonins. Not that they were any trouble, it was becoming a nuisance. After infiltrating the base they found it to be a home base for one of Orochimaru's top generals. That was who they were searching for now. Didn't expect to see this much resistance, Neji said as he took out 3 Atonins with quick strikes to their temples. How do you think the Shikamaru and Choji are doing? Oh, Naruto said as he bamfed into the middle of a group of Atonins. He left 3 frag clones and was back at Neji's side in a blink. They rocked the underground tunnels causing the roof to slowly give way. I would hope pretty well. We can hear you, came a voice over their headphones. And we are just fine. Thanks for the concern Neji-kun. Stupid Choji. Making jokes at a time like this, Neji said as he parried a strike and finished another Atonin. Oi Naruto, came Shikamaru's voice. 35. Keep up. What, no way, Naruto yelled as he charged forward leaving a path of dispatched Atonins in his wake. 27, 28, 29, 30, 30. Am I the only one who sees the danger here? Neji asked as he stared in disbelief. Naruto seemed to be everywhere in the tunnel. Naruto smirked as he looked back at Neji as he finished off one of his opponents. Come on, Naruto yelled, we are almost there. Troublesome blondes, Neji muttered. Guys, Shikamaru said over the headphones. That is my line, come up with your own. We made it to the end, Naruto said as they kicked down a door that led to a large laboratory room. Naruto heard a slamming to the left and turned to see Choji charging in with Shikamaru hot on his trail. Damn, Choji said as he wiped the blood from the small wounds on his chest and shoulder. We lost. I blame you Shikamaru. You just had to take your time. Yeah, Shikamaru said as he walked forward. He passed Naruto and whispered. 48. Same, Naruto whispered back with a huff. Fine tie this time around, but on the way out we start over. Serious, Neji said as he scanned the area. Shit. Guys, you will never guess who is here. Choji started as he put his finger to his chin as if to try and give it some thought. Naruto was jumping up and down with his hand raised as if hoping to answer the question. Pick me. Pick me, Naruto yelled. Neji was on the verge of a mental breakdown, shaking with rage. He pointed to Naruto. Is it bachelor number 1? Naruto's eyes glazed over and he disappeared and reappeared tossing a man across the room where he landed with as much grace as one could after being hurdled by someone else. He looked up and stared at the 4 Konoha Shinobi with a wicked grin. It's been a while, dope, Sasuke said as he stood up and brushed himself off. I see you're still as dumb. Sasuke started but was punched in the gut by Naruto, sending him sliding across the room. Naruto was about to follow up when 30 Itonin jumped in front of him. Naruto just smirked and looked over at Sasuke, who was slowly pulling himself up. Sasuke's eyes began to spin as his body was covered in dark tattoos. "You won't get away this time, Sasuke," Naruto said as he stared at him. "You will either die here today or I will drag your broken body back to Konoha." "As if you could touch me now," Sasuke shouted. "I've been training non-stop since our last battle." "Which I won, by the way," Naruto interrupted, causing Sasuke to seethe in anger. "And now I have the power to kill you and him," Sasuke said as he began to crackle in dark energy. He started to laugh. "But first I will start with your friends." "Oh, good luck with that," Shikamaru said as he appeared in the middle of the group of Itonins, his scythe slicing through 5 Itonins' necks, separating their heads from their bodies. A spray of blood was the only distraction need for Neji and Choji jump into the battle. Naruto didn't bother with the Itonin as his eyes followed Sasuke. Sasuke jumped back and streaked towards the door, only to be stopped when Naruto appeared in front of him. Sasuke jumped back and assumed his taijutsu stance. Naruto's eyes narrowed dangerously, but his face split into a grin. His target no, his prey was trying to escape again. This time, there would be none. Prey. That was the only thing on his mind right now, prey. It was trying to escape again. Naruto smirked as Sasuke flashed through hand signs and sent a giant fireball towards him. Before the fireball could connect, Naruto redirected the jutsu and it appeared behind Sasuke, causing him to evade his own attack. Sasuke grunted as he rolled back to his feet, only to see Naruto there slashing away with his tonfas. Sasuke produced a katana in a flash and blocked the strike. The two locked eyes for a moment, then a smirk broke over Naruto's face. "You have no idea how powerful I've become," Sasuke seethed as he pushed Naruto away. Naruto watched Sasuke's eyes begin to spin as the pinwheel design shifted. His purple and black eyes looked truly demonic as he charged forward, slashing out with his sword. "Don't care," Naruto answered in a more primal voice. His foxy grin broke out over his face as his fangs became visible. "I intended to end you here and now. You will try and die," Sasuke said as he slashed through the Naruto in front of him. Naruto erupted in a flash of light, causing Sasuke to jump back and shield his eyes. Naruto appeared behind him and stabbed both tonfas into his back. Sasuke turned to mud and Naruto was kicked to the side by a grinning Sasuke. "Oh," Naruto said as he picked himself up and turned to Sasuke. "I don't plan on that today." Sasuke just smirked as he charged the blonde. Naruto swiftly jumped back and exploded in a flash of light. Just as quickly, Sasuke disappeared in a mud clone as Naruto's fist exploded through his back. Naruto huffed as he reached into his pocket. He pulled out a deck of seal cards and turned towards Sasuke, who was flashing through hand seals. Fire erupted from Sasuke's mouth as it charged towards Naruto in a form of a dragon. Naruto smirked as he bamfed to safety and tossed his cards into the air. Paper filled the air as it slowly fell to the ground around the two fighters. Naruto's eyes were ablaze as his figure slowly disappeared in a wisp clone. Naruto bamfed and appeared behind Sasuke, seal card blazing in his hand, and tossed the card. The card exploded on impact, launching Sasuke forward towards a wall. Naruto appeared in front of him with 2 seal cards he grabbed from the air, both glowing with chakra. Sasuke flashed through hand signs and launched 3 fireballs at the blonde. Naruto tossed the cards towards 2 of the fireballs and dodged the last one. The blast shook the underground base, causing several pieces of the ceiling structure to fall to the ground around them. "Naruto!" Shikamaru's voice filled the room as Naruto and Sasuke continued their fight. Naruto was flashing in and out, grabbing seal cards as they seemed to be suspended in the air by some unknown force and tossing the explosives at Sasuke, who was skillfully dodging them. "Let's go. This place is coming down." "So what are you going to do, Naruto?" Sasuke asked with a cocky smirk as a tag exploded behind him, catching him by surprise. Sasuke recovered in midair and landed across from Naruto, who was holding 3 cards in his one hand, each glowing ready to be deployed. Sasuke just smirked as a piece of the ceiling fell between them and the rest of the building started to fall. Sasuke just smirked as he slowly sank into the ground, causing Naruto to growl in frustration. Naruto turned to his team that finished dispatching the last of the enemy ninjas and gave a nod. "Let's get out of here," Naruto yelled as they took off, Neji in front guiding them throughout the maze of tunnels towards the exit. "So, Sasuke got the drop on you this time?" Neji asked as they stood outside the now crater of land. Naruto turned towards him and shrugged. "He has improved and something was different with his Sharingan," Naruto said as he crossed his arms. It was purple and black instead of red. It reminded me of Thane's ability to sense disturbances around him down to a molecular level, but not to his complete mastery of it. That didn't stop you from planting the tracking seal on him, did it? Shikamaru said as he looked over at Naruto, who was smirking. You were pulling your punches the entire fight. You're hoping he leads us to a bigger fish. Let the smaller ones go, Naruto said as he bit his thumb. He slammed it into the ground and a large purple frog appeared. It was medium in size and had several scars over its purple hide. It looked over at Naruto and gave a slight nod. Hey Grim, I got another seal tracking that needs to be done. Scout the area and return to me once you map the place. Yes Naruto-sama, Grim said gruffly, as he disappeared in a puff of smoke. So you distracted him to place a seal on him to track him back to Orochimaru? Choji asked with a grin. Naruto nodded. Come on guys, Naruto said with a smirk. Let's head back. What about Sasuke? Neji asked as he narrowed his eyes towards the crater. We will get him soon enough, Naruto said. Once we have the details of the base we can come up with a plan. Iruka-kun? Anko whispered as she curled up next to him in bed. Iruka grumbled something incoherent and pulled her closer and continued to snooze. Anko smirked up at her man as she traced lines over his chest. She slowly got up from bed and covered herself in a small robe. She made her way out of the room, stopping by Izuma's to check on him. After that she made her way into the kitchen and started to prepare herself some tea. It was early morning, still dark outside. I hope you don't plan on making this a usual occurrence, Anko said as she turned towards the figures that were sitting at her table. Sitting there was Tsunade and Jiraiya. Tsunade stifled a giggle as she watched Anko stare daggers into Jiraiya, who was leering towards the scantily clad women. No, we just wanted to deliver this in person, Tsunade said as she held up two folders. You're being removed from active duty, again. You mean? Anko asked as she set down two more glasses on the table for them. She was shaking slightly as Tsunade handed her the folder. Her glazed eyes looked over the folder before she let a single tear fall from her cheek. Thank you. No problem at all, Tsunade said as she pulled out another folder. Now we have to discuss something else. Naruto. What about him? Anko's eyes snapped from the folder in her hands to Tsunade. She had a small fire in them that made Tsunade smile. He better not have gotten hurt again. I swear I will kill the little bastard. No, nothing happened, Tsunade said as she smiled at her. He will be learning of his heritage today. That means he will be inheriting his estate and whatnot. What does this have to do with me? Anko asked as she leaned back in her chair a bit relieved. Naruto grew up without anyone in his life, Jiraiya said as his eyes dropped. I am partly at fault and can never forgive myself. While we were on our training trip I heard stories of all of his special people. How Guy and Kakashi would fight over training him. When Kurenai would coddle him after being beat by Asuma, making him jealous. Then there were the stories of you and Iruka. I had to shadow Iruka for a while after I returned to see what made a Chunin so special. He was the figure Naruto needed for a long time. With Iruka came you, someone who didn't take his shit. He came to you when he needed healing, which you would do regardless of what was going on. You are more than a sister figure to him. What are you guys asking? Anko asked as she tilted her head. I know that your family is growing and that Naruto will always play an intricate part in it, Tsunade started. Would you make it a permanent part? You're asking to adopt him? Anko whispered out. She had tears in her eyes as she nodded. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Iruka's voice said from the other side of the room. Iruka was standing there with his pajama bottoms on and his arms crossed over his bare chest. We accept, Anko said with a smile as she looked back at Tsunade, who had a bit of drool coming from her mouth. Hey! Eyes here. Ahem, Jiraiya coughed as he glared at Tsunade, who blushed and shrugged. Sorry, Tsunade said as she looked over at them. I will discuss this with Naruto tomorrow. If he accepts, the Umino name will forever be one with Naruto's heritage. And whose is that? Anko asked with a raised eyebrow. Namikaze, Tsunade answered as both Iruka and Anko fell over. Naruto-kun, hurry up, Hinata said as she streaked ahead of him as they raced towards the Hokage's office. We are going to be late. Hey, it's not my fault this time, Naruto said as he appeared next to Hinata, who giggled. You just had to make sure I wasn't injured. I was just concerned, Hinata said, a dusted blush spreading over her exposed face. You act like you didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it immensely, Naruto smirked back. But I was just commenting that it wasn't my fault we are running late. You're late, Tsunade yelled as Naruto and Hinata entered the room. Naruto blushed and scratched the back of his head. You see, there was this old lady that needed help walking across the street. Naruto started. He dodged a kunai that was thrown at him by Anko, who sat to the Hokage's left. She didn't even look up as she thumbed through the papers. Well, what do you want to talk about? Naruto asked as he crossed his arms. I asked you to come alone, Tsunade said as she looked at Hinata, who bowed politely and made to leave. Anything you say to me will be told her as soon as I leave, Naruto said as he grabbed Hinata's hand. She can stay. Fine, Tsunade said as she pulled out a large folder and placed it in front of her. I have here something that was supposed to be given to you upon reaching the rank of Jonin. I feel that you've been deprived of this knowledge for far too long already, and seeing as we are going to be heading into war, I believe that you need to know. Naruto, this folder is proof of your heritage. You were born Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. What? Naruto fell to his knees. You mean Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered as she knelt next to him. She wrapped him in a hug and he let go the tears that were stinging his eyes. Yes, Tsunade said as she stood up slowly. You are the son of Hokage and the princess of Uzumaki. You are more royalty than anyone in this damn village, yet you were treated like you were for so long. I wanted you to know that you will be inheriting what was left behind. Thank you, Naruto said as he shakily stood up on his feet. Bakken, did they love me? More than life itself, Jiraiya said as he appeared in the window. Kushina and Minato loved you. Never forget that. We have one more thing for you, Tsunade said as she handed Naruto the scroll that had Naruto's name on it. Nikken. Anko stood and crossed her arms over her chest. She stared down at him with a slight smirk. Yeah, Ankuni? Naruto asked as he placed the scroll into his jacket. I know that you just found out who your parents are, Anko started as she pulled out a scroll and unrolled it. I have been given permission to make my family even bigger and I was wondering if, Careful now, I'm expecting again. Naruto had launched himself into her arms, tears spilling from his eyes. He looked up at his adopted mother and smiled. He hugged her tighter and pulled away, rubbing his eyes. Okay, now that the waterworks are done, Tsunade said as she tossed him a scroll. Your new residence location and inheritance is in this scroll. You mentioned my mother was the princess, Naruto said slowly as he looked up at Tsunade, who nodded. She was princess of Uzumaki, Jiraiya said with a smirk. The Uzumakis were masters of seals. One of the many reasons you can create certain seals with just touching ink-stained paper. The village was in Whirlpool, but was destroyed in the last Great War. Can I see it? Naruto asked as he looked at Jiraiya. He pulled out a scroll and passed it to Naruto. That's the only map that exists in Konoha, Jiraiya said as Naruto unrolled it. If you're going there to find answers, then good luck, it's a ghost town. Then it couldn't hurt to look around, Naruto said as he pocketed it and turned towards Tsunade, who was shaking her head. Just give me 2 weeks and a small team. Whatever, Orochimaru? Tsunade asked as she crossed her hands over her chest. Crimson can meet with Jiraiya and deliver his intel, Naruto said. Let me bring a small team there. I don't know why, but it's like I have to go there. Fine, Tsunade said as she leaned back in her chair. You and a 3-man team can leave as soon as you set up your moved into your new house. Thank you, Bakken, Naruto yelled as he fist pumped. He hugged Anko, who kissed the top of his head lightly as he turned to leave. So you want us to go with you? Shino asked as he sipped his sake. They were gathered around Choji's table after another outing at their house. Well, Naruto said as he looked at everyone. I'm picking Hinata and you because you guys are my teammates, no matter the rank. Shikamaru is coming cause he's my advisor and needs to know my heritage as well. I hate you, Shikamaru mumbled as he looked up from his paperwork. He was studying up on the Akatsuki almost non-stop. So you're going to be leaving when? As soon as my shadow clones set up the new place, Naruto said as he watched Hinata and the other girls in the kitchen. They were passing the sake around as they cleaned and talked. It's been a very confusing, but awesome day. I'd say so, Shino said as he put a hand on his back. Congrats on both families gained. Yeah, you finally have a true pack, Kiba said with drunken smirk. Yeah, Naruto said as he looked up. Iruka and Anko have always been the parents I never had. Now that I look back, now it's just on paper. Well, I shall return, Shino said as he stood. I shall gather my things and meet you at the gate. Yeah, give me about an hour, Naruto said with a smile. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled as he put the folders away in his seal and stood as well. I guess I can't back out of this one, huh? Nope, Naruto snapped as Shikamaru fell back into his shadow with a curse. Kit, a voice said from inside his head. Naruto closed his eyes and he appeared before the Demon King. Yes, Fuzzy-sama? Naruto asked with a smirk as he dodged a skull that was tossed at him by the Demon King. I have to say that you do look like the man I remember, the QB started as he leaned forward. He was a warrior of no equal, much like you are becoming. But the name Uzumaki is familiar. Maybe we can find out more while we are there. More about what? Naruto asked as he tilted his head. What would you want to know about us petty mortals? Remember my end of the bargain, the Kyuubi said with a grin. That Uchiha needs to be erased from this world. By our hands. I have no problem with that Fuzzy-sama, Naruto said with a smirk. Is there something that you're not telling me about the Uzumaki clan? Find out yourself, Kyuubi said with a smirk. If what I believe is still there, we can unite the tailed beast against that bastard. Not going to even give me a clue, are you? Naruto asked as the fox laughed. Thanks again, Kyuubi-sama. Think nothing of it, Kit, the Kyuubi whispered as Naruto left. You're going to need all the help you can get soon enough. Feels like home, the Kyuubi grumbled as the boat approached a small island. The island had a large mountain in the middle that seemed more like a man-made spire and a long bridge that lead out over the ocean into what could only be described as a cloud wall. That's the bridge that will lead you to the main island. We need to get to that island, Naruto said as he pointed a finger towards the island. You mean the big scary island with the bridge that ends in the cloud and we can't see the other side? Shikamaru grunted. I know I don't have to say it, but... troublesome, the other three mumbled out as the boat slid onto the land. Naruto and the others jumped off and looked up towards the spire of a mountain. The bridge that was at the top was huge as it spanned off towards the wall of clouds that eclipsed the water on the other side of the island. How is a bridge able to stay up like that without supports? Shino asked as they neared the bridge. The three of them were racing up the side of the mountain and reached the front of the bridge that was large enough for many caravans to travel across. Has to be the seals I see placed all over the bridge, Hinata said as she deactivated her bloodline. It's completely covered. Watch your step, Naruto said as he took the first step onto the concrete bridge. It was truly a sight to behold, a giant bridge that was seemingly floating, leading into a wall of clouds and fog. The bridge seemed to hum for a second before it fell silent. What was that? Seems that your blood deactivated the countermeasures, the Kyuubi said with a laugh. I almost completely forgot about that. Ha. Not funny, Naruto mumbled as he continued forward while the other three followed. Naruto stopped before the fog wall that was obscuring his vision of the other side. Naruto took a deep breath and moved forward. The fog disappeared almost as quickly as he walked into it. Naruto looked back to see the others looking for him only a foot away. Naruto leaned back towards them and smiled. Coming? It was like a door, Shino said with a smirk as he looked around. Welcome to Uzushiogakur, Naruto mumbled as he looked down at the abandoned village. It looked half destroyed with many of the buildings sitting in rubble. The city itself was huge, and built in a circular terrace with a large building overlooking the rest of the city in the middle. Walls were higher at each terrace level, a defensive measure if they were attacked, and had large buildings on each level. Wow, Shikamaru said looking at the city. How did a place like this fall? Who knows, Naruto said as he continued towards the central building. On the stone walls were several stone etchings of different animals in epic battles. All around them stood statues that resembled the beast in the drawings as well. What are these? Hinata as she touched a statue of what looked like the Kyuubi. They are the tailed beast, Shikamaru said as he looked at the three-tailed turtle. Why would they have these statues? Get to the main building, Kyuubi whispered. Let's get to the tower, Naruto pointed towards the large building. Maybe we can find some answers there. They rushed towards the main tower and stopped outside the large stone door. Naruto walked forward and stared. On the door was perfect etching of the King of Demons sitting upon his throne of skulls. Naruto smirked and crossed his arms. Looks like you in your prime. What happened? Old age? You try being sealed in a stunted brat for almost 2 decades, Kyuubi snapped back with grin. Naruto just scuffed and pushed the door open. Inside were 9 giant thrones with the biggest in the middle. The throne in the middle was exactly like the Kyuubi's in Naruto's head. Made entirely of what looked like skulls and bones. On the floor was a giant yin-yang carved into the stone with many seals filling the spaces. A deep chuckling could be heard in Naruto's head as he spiked with chakra and he felt something leave him. He looked up to see Kyuubi sitting on his throne in front of them. What the hell, Kyuubi? Naruto yelled out as Kyuubi shifted in his throne. I've missed this place, Kyuubi said as he leaned back in his chair. Not to worry. I'm still sealed inside of you, brat. I'm only shadow clone with my own personality. A special seal in this room allows the tailed beast to walk among us. The people of this village didn't fear the demons, they embraced them. What answers am I looking for, Kyuubi? Naruto asked as he walked towards the giant Kyuubi who smirked down at him. You said that we will be able to unite the tailed beast. How? We call them home, of course, Kyuubi said as he channeled chakra from Naruto and into the seal on the floor. Almost instantly the entire room filled with light and figures started to yell and scream. What the hell? Yelled an old man with red hair. He looked over and sneered. You again. Oh shit, Naruto yelled as he dodged a kunai. Now there will be none of that Roshi item, yelled another voice that appeared before Naruto and caught the kunai. What's up little dude? Been a while, huh? Oh a Hyuga. B? Naruto asked as he looked around. All the containers were gathered in the room with their hosts sitting at their respective throne. Kyuubi sat in the middle with Hachibi to his right and Nanabi to his left. Each demon was sitting much like the Kyuubi, in a form that wasn't completely human and had animal aspects to it. Their armors were reflecting the soft glow coming from the seal as they all looked at one another. And stay away from Hinata. I was just commenting, B said with a smirk. It's been a while since we've seen each other. The last time was when you were trying to warn us about the Akatsuki. We should have listened, would have saved us a bit of a headache. Not to mention my container's life, said the Rakubi as he looked down. His slug-like features included long whiskers on his face and gray skin that secreted a slimy texture. How is it fair that we continue to survive past our containers? Tell me about it, Gobi said as she shook her head as her horse-like ears twitched. Han died for no reason. If only he wasn't so stubborn like Roshi. You guys could have protected each other. I see that now, Roshi said as he bowed to Gobi. Regardless of what has happened. Why are you out of your seals? B, Naruto whispered as he pointed to the red-haired man. Shut him up for me. With pleasure, B said as he walked towards the redhead cracking his knuckles. How are you here if you've been captured? Shikamaru asked as he stared at Ichibi and Gaara who was looking at him dumbfounded. The Ichibi was a female demon it seemed as she stared at Gaara with a smirk on her raccoon-like face. Gaara, how did you get here? I'm just as lost as you, Gaara said as he looked back at Naruto. What's going on? Well you see, Ichibi said with a smirk as she leaned forward and picked up Gaara and sat him on the armrest of her throne. The Akatsuki clearly think us demons to be fools. They took my pinky and were content with that amount of power. Being the one tail always makes them think I'm the weakest. So I returned into my tenant's mind after he was awakened without his knowledge and bided my time. The humans who captured me were fools to think they could outdo a demon. Which was always a human's mistake from the beginning, said Yubi. His gorilla-like face turned towards the group. Unlike the people of Uzui, they felt a need for power and turned us into weapons. War is what we were designed for. Iba-sama, Nibi purred as Yugito sat in her lap staring at Naruto with a curious gaze. She turned her gaze to the Kyuubi and then turned her gaze to Naruto smirked. Why was this meeting called Kyuubi-kun? Don't get any ideas Nibizan, Kyuubi said. The kid's got a mate. Naruto-san, this is where you start your true mission. Naruto looked around the room as he watched all the containers sitting with their tailed beast. I know that I came to each of you asking to join me, Naruto said as he walked to the center of the room. And each of you had an excuse. The time for excuses is over. We will not lose another. From here on out we stand united against this threat, and we will wipe them from existence. I will stand with you Naruto-sama, Gaara said. A king needs his knights, and you will have me. I will stand with you as well Naruto-sama, Yugito said with wink as Hinata shot her a glare. I will need a new container, the Sanbi said as he looked down at Naruto. He adjusted his giant shell-like shield and battle axe as he leaned forward. You're one hell of a container son. No wonder the Kyuubi trusted you to do this. Of course he's the best, Kyuubi said with a begrudging smirk. He's the last Uzumaki. At this all the demons bowed slightly towards Naruto. The sudden shows of respect made Naruto nervous and scratched the back of his head. Then you will have my axe, Sanbi said as he leaned back. Fine, Roshi said from his tied-up position. I will help, but as soon as this is over I will avenge you. Konoha will always be my enemy and you demons will be locked away. Whatever, Naruto said as he turned back to the demons that were give Roshi a curious look. I shall join as well, Gobi whispered out as she let out a bit of neigh. You will need all of our help. I agree, Rakubi said as he leaned forward dripping a bit of himself on the floor. You may be strong, but you are going up against a deity. What do you mean? Naruto asked as he looked over at him. You will be fighting a sage of the sixth paths, Rakubi said as he leaned back. My container didn't stand a chance. Well, good thing he will have plenty of help, said Nanabi as she looked down at Fu who was staring intently at Shino. Throw in Bug Boy and you have a deal. Nanabi, snapped Kyuubi with a glare. She flinched and looked down at Fu who crossed her arms. Fine, we will join, Fu said as she smirked at Shino. I guess we will just have to claim him the old-fashioned way. Looks like Haku-chan's going to be angry, whispered Naruto to Shikamaru who was busy taking notes. Shino looked like he was shrinking in size under the intense gaze of the orange-eyed girl. This is too good to pass up, Shikamaru whispered back. Pay back. Yo yo yo, B yelled out as he crossed his arms. "Shut up, B," Naruto said as he turned to Kyubi. "We know you're down to boogie down. Killing my raps here," B said with a huff as he looked up to Kyubi. "But you got us, big man." "Now we got that settled," Kyubi said as he looked down at the three others. "Hinata, you stand in front of Gobi-sama, Shino in front of Rakuba-sama, and Shikamaru please go to Sanbi-sama." "Wait, you can't," Naruto yelled as he moved forward. "If we are to win this war we need containers," Kyubi yelled back. "I knew when you picked this team that they would be chosen for this." "Guys," Naruto said as he turned to them. "I didn't know. I swear it." "It's okay, Naruto," Shino said as he walked to Rakubi. "We will need all the help we can get. Not to mention the training you will be receiving," Rakubi said as he placed a slimy hand over Shino, who sighed and stared at him with a cold look. "Sorry, you will get used to it." "Great," Shino said as he looked up at the Kyubi. "Won't this kill someone whose chakra network is mature?" "It won't be a problem," Kyubi said as he looked over at him. "Luckily this time the demon is willing to be sealed. When a demon is forced to be sealed it has no control over the flux of chakra released, thus killing older shinobi that tried to seal beast into themselves. When you have a willing demon, it doesn't affect you as it is going to slowly integrate themselves with your chakra network. The process will take a bit of time and you will need to do all new chakra control exercises. So it will be painless. Well, you might feel a little pinch. Naruto-kun," Hinata said as she turned to him and gave him a hug. Naruto pulled her mask and gave her a quick chastised kiss before pulling it back up. She looked up and gave him a nice smile. "This will just give us a better way of protecting you by becoming targets yourselves," Naruto said as he watched Shikamaru walk over to the Sanbi. The Sanbi stared down at Shikamaru and sighed. "Why do I get the scrawny one?" Sanbi said as Shikamaru just sighed and felt the Sanbi put his hand on him as well. "Troublesome," Shikamaru whispered under his breath. "Let's just get this over with." Hinata walked over towards the Gobi as she placed a hand on Hinata. Naruto watched as his three friends light up in three different colors of light. The Sanbi's dark aqua light flooded out of him and started to glow inside of Shikamaru, who was letting out a muffled gasp of pain. Naruto looked over at Shino and Rakubi, who was glowing a gray-blue and slowly disappearing, into Shino, who let out a groan of pain and fell to his knees in pain. A slight yelp of pain from Hinata took his complete attention as he appeared at her side. Kyubi's hand reached over and pulled him away from Hinata as she continued to writhe in pain as her body was glowing bright white. Naruto yelled out as he tried to reach her, tried to comfort her in some way. "Stop it, you fool," Kyubi yelled as he watched the scene. "She's almost done. It's killing her," Naruto yelled as there was a loud bang and the room fell silent. Naruto watched as Hinata knelt before him, her body smoking slightly. Naruto was at her side instantly and helped her to her feet. She slumped forward and into his arms as she mumbled something incoherent. Naruto looked over at the Kyubi, who resumed his place at the head of the thrones. "A little pinch?" Naruto yelled out as he held Hinata in his arms, who stirred back awake. "Naruto-kun," Hinata said softly as she snuggled into his chest a bit more. "I'm fine, why are you yelling?" "Hinahime," Naruto said as he looked her over. On her exposed stomach was the kanji for Gobi written in lavender ink. Naruto looked up at the Gobi that now appeared on her throne. Hinata stayed in his arms as she adjusted to the new feeling. "You okay?" "Yeah," Hinata said as she looked up at him. "I feel stronger," Shikamaru said. He slowly stood up with Shino helping him to his feet. "Yeah, don't worry about us, Naruto, we are fine." "Now what, Fuzzy?" Naruto said, still a bit angry at the giant fox. "We train," Kyubi said as he stood up. "Troublesome," Shikamaru mumbled out. "What do you mean?" Gar just up and disappeared. Tsunade yelled at Temari as she crossed her arms and sighed. "Like I said, we were on our way here when he vanished in a flash of light," Temari said as she rubbed her arms, looking a bit worried. "I just got him back and now he disappears." "There is nothing to worry about, Temari-sama," said a new voice. Turning, they saw a small deer walk up to them. It bowed politely before Temari walked over to it and pulled the letter out of the deer's antlers. "Shikamaru-sama sends his love." "Thank you," Temari said with a blush as the deer vanished in a puff of smoke. "It seems that Naruto is moving ahead in his plans." "You mean he's united the tail beast?" came Jiraiya's voice from the window. Temari nodded and turned to Tsunade. "We need to start our preparations," Tsunade said as she slowly stood and pulled out a small scroll from her desk. "Thank you, Temari, we will contact you when we are ready." "Hokage-kun," Ino's voice filled the house as she walked out of the bedroom. It was early morning and she was searching for her missing husband. She looked down at the ring that now adorned her finger and smiled to herself. She was currently wearing one of his shirts that fell to below her knees, which also exposed her shoulders and collarbone slightly. She slowly pulled her hair into a ponytail as she walked into the kitchen to see Choji with two others. Kankuro and Tamari sat at their bar table enjoying the coffee that Choji prepared. "Morning, hun," Choji said over his shoulder as he continued to prepare breakfast for everyone. "Morning, Ino," Tamari said with a smile. "Morning, hot stuff," Kankuro said towards the blonde who tossed a kunai at him that embedded in the stool an inch away from his precious. "Where the hell did you get one of those?" "A girl's gotta keep her secrets," Ino said slyly as she pulled Choji in for a kiss. Choji just laughed and walked over to the table with the breakfast. "So you're back and Shikamaru has gone on mission," Ino said as she bit into some toast. Tamari shrugged and continued to nurse her coffee. "That sucks. Tell me about it," Tamari said. "I stopped by to talk to you guys about your little club." "Black Leaves are not a club, Tamari-kun," Choji said. "But what about them?" "Naruto is moving ahead with his plan. That means that we will be moving ahead with ours," Tamari said as she set her coffee down and raised her eyes. "We have to make a certain man pay for making our village look like a fool. So I have to ask, are you ready to go snake hunting?" "Thought you'd never ask," Ino said with a grin that would make Anko proud. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.